What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So it is the 20th of July, which is supposed to be the date of that rumored Nintendo Direct, but there is also a rumor going around that they may have even announced it last night, and then they were going to do it this morning. I double-checked with Nintendo. They're going to give us at least 2 hours, okay, with Newswave being up. They're not going to do it an hour the same time, fortunately. So we'll see how all of that goes down today with those rumors flying all over the place. Today, though, we have a few things to go over, including a rumored Switch game that we had talked about before actually starting to pop up online, and we have to go over some review bombing that is taking place for Paper Mario. Remember, Metacritic had done some things to try to circumvent review bombing, but it doesn't appear to be really helping as much when it comes to a game as controversial, we'll say, divisive even, as Paper Mario. As always, guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're brand new here, hit the red subscribe button down below as we head towards 500,000 subscribers. And we're going to start today with that DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5. Jeff Keighley did show it off. This was on Friday, and I checked out the stream, and it was all right. Here's the issue we run into with the DualSense controller being shown off in a live stream. You kind of want to be able to hold it and check it out while things are being said to you, right? That's one of the biggest reasons Nintendo went around with their public events to showcase the Switch and its features, because it was pretty difficult to say, hey, this Joy-Con feels like ice cubes are inside because of haptic feedback. Everyone's just gonna say, what's that exactly? I can't exactly picture how that feels. But Jeff did his best. He showed off the controller. We saw the back. It doesn't appear to have any extra macro buttons or extra paddles back there like the Elite Xbox One controller does currently, just as an example. But he showed off Astro's Playroom, and it does look like a tech demo that's basically just going to come with your PlayStation 5 to show off all the things with the controller. I thought the idea of using springs to show off the adaptive triggers that are supposed to be able to change intention depending on what's happening in the game was a clever idea, but otherwise it's like, hey, this has haptic feedback. Okay, but we kind of know what that is with the Switch now because that's what's in the Pro Controller and the Joy-Con controllers. I'll just be curious to see if Sony's haptic feedback and their setup feels any different. And then he also showed off things like the microphone being able to blow into it and it would do things on screen. But okay, I guess, presentation overall. Again, it's a controller and there's only so much you can really show and kind of talk about without actually handing it to somebody to show it further. But to go a little further than that, Jeff Keighley did talk to a Sony representative about the PlayStation 5, and one topic that came up was pre-orders, right? Remember, that was a big thing this past week. The pre-orders were rumored to be dropping, and everyone was going to scramble to make sure they got themselves a system set up and ready to go for the holidays. Turns out, we will find out at least in advance for when pre-orders will go live. Like, they will announce the price, probably the release date, and then they'll say, hey, pre-orders will be live like 3 days from now or 4 days from now, to give everyone a chance to kind of sit down and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and pick this system up and have it ready to go midway through November, again, is what I'm thinking it'll happen. And to go a step further, people were starting to even look at the PlayStation Store itself, like the website where you can order different things, and it does say that it is limit like one per cart. So like you can't buy a digital and then like the disk drive based system in the same cart, and you can't buy multiples. One per person, which is good, obviously, because we've seen what happens with some of those bots that go around and buy up like 10 or 12 Switch systems at once right now, causing the shortage. Definitely don't want to have to deal with that when it comes to the PlayStation 5. Also, Crysis Remastered is out this week, the 23rd, on the Switch. Not on the other platforms, those have been delayed, I guess, to work on the game further on those systems, but I was still wondering what the game exactly would look like on the Switch. Well, we have some actual footage from it. Now, that's still over YouTube, and it can be kind of compressed, and it's like, okay, I'll probably still have to see that in person, right? But I gotta say, for Crysis moving over to a portable system with using that Tegra, it's pretty impressive. They showed off all kinds of cool features and different specifics in terms of some of the technology they were using, and it looks like Crysis. Look, Crysis has been around for a long time. It's always been something you beat up your new video card with or your new system with, and it's still strange to me to think that it is going to be on this tablet-sized device, right, that you could technically walk around with, and it will have gyro aiming, as we talked about. All of that was showcased and a ton of stuff, so the 23rd, I'm going to pick it up and I will talk to you guys about that afterwards, giving my thoughts and impressions to see how good of a port Saber was able to pull off. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with the rumored Switch game that I heard about a while ago, and I thought that's an odd game to come to the Switch, or just even come out in general. It appears to be a remaster. I mean, it could even be a remake, I guess. I think it's going to be a remaster of Need for Speed Hot Pursuit from 2010. But it is EA support for the Switch, and it's looking more and more likely that it could show up same day as the other platforms. And that sounds weird to be saying that's like this shocking thing, but it's EA. So, you know, if you're a Nintendo Switch owner and I say, oh, EA might bring one of these games to the Switch alongside of the other platforms day one, you'd be shocked, right? It's not FIFA, but it's coming day one. Wow. Yeah, but an Australian retailer actually posted this here, and you can see Need for Speed Hot Pursuit on the Switch. We had been talking about this before. It had been a bunch of course, rumors and at times speculation of this happening, but yeah, I mean, a retailer starting to post it. Others have started to post it as well. I almost wondered if this was something that would be announced in a Direct potentially, or if Nintendo's Direct is going to be mostly first-party stuff because of COVID and everything going on right now. It's very scattered behind the scenes, especially with third parties trying to be parts of Directs. So I kind of think this might be something that EA seriously just announces on their own. A Twitter post, just throw a trailer up on YouTube, and then at the end you see all the different systems at the bottom alongside of the Switch. And it is odd because we just had, of course, we had Burnout and Burnout Paradise on the Switch, and that was like $50. And I think this could release at that same price, or maybe even $10 lower at like $40. So that on its own is a strange situation. That game just launched a bit too expensive, but to see EA, of course, they have talked about some more support going forward for the Switch, but they named, or at least showed us how many games they were going to bring over, and we basically named all of them. So to see Need for Speed be something else out there, it is good, and it does make me wonder if EA will continue to support the Switch maybe a bit more. Now, we do still need this to be announced with release date and pricing. That's a big one, because if the Switch version ends up being a little more than the other systems, I'm sure that won't go over great. But once it's announced and it's out there officially and there's a Switch logo on it, we'll see if EA continues to push forward more and more with the Switch. As it continues to be more and more successful, their own investors keep asking them, why isn't things like The Sims on the Switch? It might be time to start moving on that, EA, especially as the Switch moves past 60 million, maybe starts climbing to 70 million over the holidays. I mean, you can only ignore something like that for so long. Next up, let's talk about Paper Mario on the Switch, the Origami King, getting what appears to be review bombed on Metacritic. Now, Metacritic has attempted to, I guess, stop some of the review bombing by requiring users to wait. At this time, 36 hours seems to be the thing now, as they did this with Ghost of Tsushima and Paper Mario. But as soon as the reviews opened up, boom, everyone started hitting Paper Mario on either side. There are some very good reviews of people I wonder if they've even played the game, and then there are really bad reviews for it. Zeros, right? It's like, that game's not a zero, right? But if you look over at, obviously, the score itself at an 81, I think is good, right? That's a good score for the most part. And then a 6.7 user score, and if you go over to the breakdown, at the time of this recording, 311 positive, 61 mixed, and 143 negative, with quite a few zeros if you look down. Now you see some ones and twos, but I gotta say, seeing zeros is obvious what you're trying to do with it, whether it's rip down the score or just put a frustrated opinion on Metacritic, hoping, I guess, that Nintendo sees this. Now, here's the deal. Tanabe has already said that he does look to the community to see what people are thinking about these games that are going out specifically for Paper Mario. And the thing that always strikes me interesting with Paper Mario, it's hit every home system for Nintendo since it came out on the N64. It even went to the 3DS, technically, right? But it's been on every home console. So clearly this is a franchise that Nintendo at least thinks is somewhat important. So maybe this is just the direction they want to go in with it. Like, maybe they just don't want it to be an RPG as much as they did before with Thousand Year Door, even the original one, and they just want it to be an adventure game. The puzzle mechanic, I've been playing it more and more. The puzzle mechanic has become tedious at times, but the bosses have been pretty cool. I will say that. That is like a high point. The writing, the visuals, and even at times like the gameplay itself outside of battle have been a lot of fun. The puzzles have been good outside of battle, but every time I look at the battle system on random battles, it's like, okay, here we go. I'll turn this and okay, we're good, right? All done. Now, as for Metacritic and the 36-hour rule, I could have told them it wasn't gonna work. Like, all right, so obviously for Last of Us Part 2, as soon as those opened at like 12:01 a.m., right? Boom, like 1,000 reviews come in. Obviously, that was something that people were waiting to do. Something like Paper Mario or Ghost, it wasn't as serious, right? I think Paper Mario doesn't even have 1,000 reviews on it, whereas Last of Us got tens of thousands of reviews. It was crazy there. Ghost, on the other hand, actually has a higher user score than review score, and everyone seems to really be enjoying Ghost right now, myself included. Ghost of Tsushima is awesome. But yes, the review bombing hitting Paper Mario is strange. I still don't really get it for review bombing, but I guess people just like to type out their messages and give it a 0 when it's not really a 0. Now there are some normal reviews on there, I will say, where it's like a 7, okay, even a 6, all right. But like when you look down and it's like one sentence and it's like, I hate that this isn't Thousand Year Door, you go, well, you probably didn't play more than an hour of it, so okay. Next up, let's talk about the UK sales charts, as we have some rankings for the different games that came out on Friday. That's Ghost of Tsushima and Paper Mario the Origami King. Let's go over here to the top 10 as provided by GamesIndustry.biz, and you can see Ghost of Tsushima at the top, number 1, and then we have Paper Mario the Origami King. So the two brand new games for the week coming out on Friday, so just a few days of tracking for. These are just physical copies being sold through the UK. Are number 1 and 2, so that's good news there. F1 2020 at 3, Animal Crossing still up there at 4. It's pretty much been in the top 5, I think, since it came out. It's always been around there. Last of Us Part 2 and at 5, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 6, Grand Theft Auto 5, which just will never go away, is at 7, Minecraft specifically on the Switch, as they note there, at 8, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy at 9, then Luigi's Mansion at Luigi's Mansion 3 at 10, wow. Now, going back to those top 2, Paper Mario the Origami King actually sold more than both Color Splash and Sticker Star combined. It's the best launch that Paper Mario has seen in the UK, like straight up, that they have tracked. But if we go up to number 1, Ghost of Tsushima sold 4 times as much as Paper Mario the Origami King. Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is off and running. I gotta say, hey, hats off to Sucker Punch. The game's awesome. I'm having a blast with Ghost of Tsushima right now, so I get why it's selling so much. Like I said, the review scores were a little lower than I thought they would be, but as I'm playing through it, I'm just getting a sense of fun that I haven't had with something like Assassin's Creed in a while. Assassin's Creed is a pretty good comparison to this game, specifically because of its open world style, and of course it has the stealth elements, and of course you're climbing certain parts. I get why those comparisons are drawn, but something about Ghost just seems more fun. I'm more interested to navigate the world in Ghost than I ever have been in Assassin's Creed, maybe since Assassin's Creed 2. I'm gonna say Black Flag, that's what I'm gonna say. But like since then, it's been kind of at times draining as you get further into Assassin's Creed. I just want to keep playing Ghost. Like it keeps building and building, and I don't know, just overall the setting I think is great. The biggest part to me, Assassin's Creed needs to go to Japan next. I think that's where they can really revitalize the series, because Ghost just, everyone really likes Ghost from what I've seen. So having a blast with it. Good to see that doing well. Hey, Paper Mario coming in at 2 and beating out the last 2 launches combined of Color Splash and Sticker Star is pretty good as well. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 1. So Medieval, of course, is a game that released at the end of last year, of course. And I picked it up, played it, thought it was pretty cool. But in there, you can unlock the original one and you can play it like it's a PS1 game, right? On the PlayStation 4. Well, recently we've had new custom firmware released for the PlayStation 4, and it's allowed different people to go back through and take a look at Medieval. They dumped it, they looked through it, and hackers ended up finding a native PlayStation 1 emulator for the PlayStation 4, and they've started running different games through it. For example, here's Lance McDonald, this is on Twitter, saying, "Oh wow, do you remember how in the PS4 remake of Medieval you can unlock the original PS1 version of the game? Turns out there's a whole PS1 emulator in there. Silent Hill running around 4K on a PS4 Pro is not perfect." Yeah, so they're trying different games to run through that PS1 emulator, and some are working better than others. Like, it is pretty funny to see something like Silent Hill on there, but it does make you wonder about what Sony could have done with that PlayStation 1 emulator on the PS4 with native support where you can pop a disc in and it reads it or downloads it from the store. I kind of feel like Sony has been hesitant to really get into that on the PlayStation 4 with some of their legacy software that they probably could tap into. I hope that changes with the PS5, but Jim Ryan isn't that interested in backwards compatibility or like older games, I should say. Like PS4, yes, obviously the PS5, PS4, those will be that'll be backwards compatible. But like going to like the PS3, the PS2, the PS1, they don't seem that interested, at least from what Jim Ryan has said in previous interviews. So it seems like they have the emulator. I know they have the PS2 emulator because you can play PS2 games on your PS4 if you just download them on the shop or on PlayStation Now. The PS3 is the tough one, but like PS1 and PS2 should be no-brainer. It's like extra games that you can sell through your shop, and like other companies might come in and release their games on there as well. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Speedy Wyatt saying, F-Zero collection sounds interesting to me. Feel like the Switch is lacking racing games. So I thought more and more about F-Zero over the weekend if Nintendo would try to do something like that. My concern now that I have really thought about is Nintendo might go back to F-Zero and feel like they have to do something with it. Like, not just like take F-Zero, the core concept that we know and love right now, and just bring it over. They might try to get wild and crazy with it to try to make it unique, right? Like this puzzle mechanic in Paper Mario, just as an example. You never really know what they could do with it. So that is my one concern, is that they'd be unsure if F-Zero would still work in something like 2020 or 2021 without some crazy new gameplay mechanic or something new that could end up backfiring on them with fans not happy with it. So I would prefer for them to keep the core racing mechanics, but maybe build out on the character development or the story or other things. That would be really cool. Like I said before, you leave your ship, you do other things outside of your ship, but then you also go back to complete races and advance the story. So just an idea, Nintendo. I think F-Zero could use some love though on the Switch. I think there is some serious potential there. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, seemingly popping up now even for the Switch. Did you like that Need for Speed? Are you excited to see a remaster, possibly this year, maybe even just randomly announced by EA on Twitter? Also, what'd you think about Ghost of Tsushima or even Paper Mario, the Origami King? Do you think Paper Mario deserves to get review bombed, or are you someone who's really enjoying it right now despite it not being like the original quote-unquote traditional Paper Mario games? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.